No, I do not believe that Stage Manager will come to iPhone. Unfortunately. Ish, with an asterisk, unfortunately, as well as Stage Manager. I've had time to sit on this rumor, especially after WWDC and not getting anything to do with Stage Manager. I was like, oh, well, that's unfortunate. Or so I thought. And the longer I sat with it, the more I realized actually, no, this is not only the right move, but it also makes sense. And I'm going to explain why. And maybe by the end of this, you might agree with me. Maybe. So here's the thing about Stage Manager. We think about Stage Manager, and what's the first thing we think about? We think about the iPad. And why do we think about the iPad? Because we think of multiple windows. We think of multitasking. And we think about how the iPad can have more functionality than what's given in iPad OS. Are you with me so far? But what else has Stage Manager? The Mac. And how many people, honestly, if you're a Mac user, be honest with me, how many of you actively use Stage Manager for the Mac? I doubt hardly any of you. I've tried Stage Manager for the Mac just to see if I can get a feel for it and if that would be my thing, but it wasn't. But the iPad, I use Stage Manager every single day. And not because I'm trying to have a desktop-like experience. It's because there's a core functionality about Stage Manager that we seem to have forgotten or we omit. And now it's also going to become a bit more irrelevant because of the new windowing system that is coming to the new iPad OS for iPad OS 26. So here's the thing. Overall, what we want from an iPad is proper multifunction, multitasking, proper desktop-like experiences. But what we also want from the iPad is to basically have Mac experience. And I guarantee many features with the Stage Manager is just going to go away with the new desktop windowing tiling system. And all of that is completely irrelevant when it comes to an iPhone. Because iPhone doesn't have multitasking as is. And it's not going to. The thing about Stage Manager when it comes to the iPad is you can use Stage Manager on a small screen, the smallest screen possible, which is the device itself, as well as on a display. But you can't do it on an iPad mini. Why? Because they think it's too small for its function, whereas the tiling system is a little bit different. We'll talk about those differences in just a moment. But you could do it on device as well as externally to a display. You can't do that with an iPhone. Even if we wanted to have the capabilities of it, the way the phone is set up, maybe you have to go to landscape and then do this. This is a smaller experience than the iPad mini. And the iPad mini can't do this. So then you're like, okay, but when you plug it in, that's the whole point. Now you get computer-like features. The thing about Apple is that when you think like that, that's not intuitive. They want things to just work, as they say. And yes, we can find contradictions in that philosophy, but you can use an iPad right now without a keyboard, a magic keyboard, without an Apple Pencil. You can do everything on an iPad without the accessories. Does the accessories make it a better experience? Yes, that's why I have them. But you don't need them, and you have all the software features still presented to you the same way. It's just touch interface first. And that's what I like about the iPad. That's what I appreciate the versatility with the iPad for. The phone does not give you those capabilities. And for it to fragment its software based off of DeX-like support, Stage Manager, as I'm assuming we would all call it, doesn't make sense. Because the windowing system, the grouping system wouldn't make sense. Expanding the dock on your iPhone wouldn't make sense. You can't have more than 4 applications or folders on your dock with iOS. So putting that onto the screen at that point would kind of break the illusion and break that symmetry in the sense of having a unified experience with iOS. You can only have but the 4. Whereas like on my iPad, I have over 10 applications that are on my dock at all times, regardless of it's on my iPad, on my display, Stage Manager or not. So I don't see that happening. Also, one of the core functions that we have forgotten about Stage Manager is the grouping system with applications. And now let me explain this and why I don't do this on my Mac. On my iPad, At any given time, I have multiple applications open. And within the applications themselves, I have them grouped based off of categories. For example, if I wanted to have something to do with communications or my email, messaging, I have a group of apps right there because of Stage Manager. Or if I wanted to work on my channel and I have everything for the Randy Nexus with Freeform, with my notes, and with the YouTube Studio app, that's there. Or my budgeting and finance section, I have everything that to do with my finances. They're all grouped together and I can move in between any of them at any given time, as well as then expand upon it and make it a full application going full screen. All those features would not make sense on an iPhone. You have a one app at a time purpose. So I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, because part of the contradiction is with the new tiling system for the windows coming to iPad, and you could just flick them and just have a quadrant. I love a good quadrant. You could do that on an iPad mini, but there's no grouping that's happening. Now you just have multiple windows just kind of existing, and that makes it more desktop-like. And I like using those features, that type of functionality on my Mac. So when I'm working in Final Cut, when I have OBS open to record, or if I am using Logic Pro and I'm writing music and I have mini windows that come up within Logic, all that, I like the windowing system for Mac, but that wouldn't make sense on my iPad for my use case because I'm not going to buy Logic Pro or Final Cut again, and it definitely wouldn't make sense on my iPhone. But if we were to have moving windows wherever we want on our iPhone, yeah, that would be sick. That'd be cool, especially if we can plug it into an external display. But they would have to change that functionality altogether. And I don't think it should be Stage Manager. I think it should just be the new tiling system that's coming out, built more custom for iPhone. And even though the chips are powerful enough to do that, I don't see Apple doing it because it sounds convoluted. It can get complicated. And I know pro users are like, well, I could do all this stuff and let me make the choice. I get it. But it's hard to picture marketing that for what it is. I know us as the techies of this world, we would be like, oh, I can find a use case where I can run everything off of my phone. That'd be a sick idea. And I agree with that idea. But for most people, I just don't see that being a thing. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I'm sure Apple has been experimenting with this for a very long time. I know they hear our feedback. I'm sure they have tried this for quite a few years now. And if it hasn't came out yet for whatever reason, I don't see this happening for the iPhone, unfortunately.
Wow. More windows, a pointier pointer, and a menu bar? Who would have thought? We've truly pulled off a mind-blowing release. Who would have thought?